This past weekend I was in Seattle at the Dharma Friendship Foundation and sharing the Dharma with them, and our topic this weekend was the far-reaching practice of fortitude or patience. And so this led me into something I just wanted to share, some reflections on that. The three kinds of fortitude that we talked about are the first kind, which is the disregarding the harm that's done to you. The second kind, according to the Lamrim Chenmo, the language is translated this way: the fortitude accepting the suffering arising in your mind stream. And then the third one, which often in my mind is just reduced to the shorthand of having the fortitude to practice the Dharma. But there's very precise language in the Lamrim Chenmo that led us into an exploration. So what Lama Tsongkhapa says is the third kind of fortitude is being certain about the teachings and firmly maintaining belief in them. Being certain about the teachings and firmly maintaining faith in them as a practice of fortitude. So there's many ways of looking about like that. So it is the fortitude to practice the Dharma and to apply what we understand of the Dharma into all the situations that we have that come up. Ultimately, to back away from the fear that comes from looking at the things that are, aspects of the teachings or what the Buddha told us about the way things are that are frightening. To really delve deeply into impermanence can be a frightening thing, but to cultivate the fortitude or the strength that really accepts the truth of that. And then the ultimate nature of reality, as we get more familiar with that, there can be quite a fear, because everything we know, it seems so solid and real. But this led to a discussion, and then I further thought about how we learn that the way we develop our wisdoms are through the wisdoms of hearing and thinking and meditating. And I think when I've heard this, I've always thought this sounds very tidy. We hear the teachings, we think about the teachings, we develop a strong enough understanding, and then we can really meditate deeply on them. But as I thought about this in the context of the fortitude to being certain about the teachings and firmly maintain belief in them, I see that this part about hearing okay, thinking is really a dynamic and sometimes a difficult process. Because we do, I think, go through a period of time where as we recognize, I remember in my own experience, hearing many, many, many teachings that the sense pleasure, the pleasure of samsara, is not lasting and isn't really pleasure. Well, I was furious. I didn't want to hear this. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to know about it. And I think I know quite repeatedly a few times I was practically in the Venerable Chödrön's face going, "Prove it to me." Well, what I see now is that this is really a developmental stage in our practice. This is part of the wisdom of thinking about the teachings. And the fortitude that comes from keeping showing up. That was the point that we really came to this weekend, is that we come up against these teachings again and again. They're changing the way we think. They're changing everything that we think we believe about the world. They're changing everything we think about. We think about how to get happiness, which is what we're striving for constantly. And as we deepen our recognition of the truth of what the Buddha is saying, of course our mind rebels and goes nuts. We fight back. Our self-centered thought arises, and we're grasping at straws until, through continuing to reflect on the material, debate the material, argue if you must, it seeps into our minds, and so that we really do have an understanding that deepens. So this fortitude to being certain about the teachings and firmly maintain belief in them really is fed by keeping showing up. That's my point today. That so often, I have seen, and I've been tempted myself, but I've certainly seen in other Dharma practitioners who really were quite taken with the teachings, but at some point hit a wall inside, and they don't go the extra step to fight with it if they have to, but keep showing up. And this is really, in a way, at our level of developing this particular kind of fortitude, this is how we grow it, is we keep showing up, we keep chewing on it. And this reminded me then to go back to the sutra where it's so often quoted, but it's so meaningful, where the Buddha said, "O monastics and wise ones, just as a goldsmith would test gold by burning, cutting, rubbing, fighting against the teaching, so you must examine my words and accept them, not merely out of reverence for me." So sometimes when we doubt, oh, I'm fighting with the teachings, I'm not a very good Buddhist, if we're fighting with the teachings and we keep showing up, if we're fighting with them and trying to understand them and internalize them, then we're doing exactly what the Buddha has asked us to do. And our wisdom arising from that will lead to our capacity to meditate on them, and we will be able to, step by step, progress along the path, realize that the Buddha was telling the truth, and not because we just heard it from some right person, but from our own experience. And in that way, of course, we fulfill our potential. So the message here, keep showing up.